Picture this. It's the dead of night in ancient Jerusalem. The flickering flames of oil lamps cast dancing shadows across stone walls as a young king tosses restlessly in his royal chamber. Solomon, barely past his 20th year, has inherited the throne of Israel from his legendary father, King David. The weight of an entire nation rests upon his shoulders, and he knows that one wrong decision could plunge his people into chaos. But tonight, something extraordinary is about to happen. Something that will echo through the corridors of time and inspire the greatest minds for 3,000 years. Tonight, God himself appears to Solomon in a dream and offers him the most incredible gift imaginable. Ask for whatever you want, and I will give it to you. Imagine that moment. The creator of the universe stands before you, offering you anything your heart desires. What would you choose? Wealth beyond measure, power over your enemies, a life of endless pleasure, health and long life, fame that would last for eternity. But Solomon chose something different, something that would change the course of history and reveal the greatest secret of prosperity that has ever been discovered. Give your servant a discerning heart, Solomon whispered in that sacred moment, to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. In that single choice, Solomon unlocked what Napoleon Hill would later call the master key to all riches. You see, my friends, what happened in that ancient chamber wasn't just a Bible story. It was the first recorded example of what Hill would identify as the foundation of all wealth, the power of choosing wisdom over immediate gratification. 3,000 years later, a young newspaper reporter from Virginia would spend 20 years interviewing the most successful people of his time: Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller, and he would discover that they all shared one common trait. They had all, like Solomon, chosen to develop their minds before pursuing their fortunes. But here's what will shock you. Napoleon Hill realized that Solomon had already laid out the complete blueprint for wealth creation in the Book of Proverbs. Every single principle that Hill would later codify in Think and Grow Rich was already there, hidden in plain sight in the wisdom of the ancient king. Before we continue, I need you to understand something crucial. What you're about to discover in the next 2 hours isn't just another motivational speech or feel-good philosophy. This is the actual secret that built the greatest fortunes in human history. This is why Solomon became the wealthiest man who ever lived. This is why Andrew Carnegie could take a poor immigrant boy and turn him into Napoleon Hill, one of the most influential success teachers of all time. If you're serious about transforming your life, if you're ready to stop struggling and start thriving, then I need you to do 3 things right now. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and promise me you'll stay with me until the very end of this video. Because what I'm about to share with you has the power to completely revolutionize your relationship with money, success, and your own limitless potential. The secret is hidden in 7 principles that Solomon understood and that Napoleon Hill rediscovered. But here's the warning. If you leave this video early, if you let distractions pull you away, you'll miss the one insight that could change everything. So turn off your phone, close other tabs, and prepare yourself to discover the secret that kings have used to build kingdoms and that modern millionaires use to create fortunes. This isn't about get-rich-quick schemes or overnight success. This is about understanding the fundamental laws that govern prosperity, laws that are as reliable as gravity and as powerful as the force that moves planets in their orbits. Laws that Solomon discovered 3 millennia ago and that Napoleon Hill proved still work today. The wisdom choice, Solomon's definite chief aim. Let me take you back to that pivotal moment when Solomon made the choice that would define not just his reign, but the entire trajectory of human understanding about wealth and success. It was more than a simple request for wisdom. It was the first recorded example of what Napoleon Hill would later identify as the most crucial element of all achievement, having a definite chief aim. You see, when God appeared to Solomon and offered him anything he desired, the young king didn't make an impulsive decision. He had already been thinking about what he truly needed to succeed as a ruler. He had observed his father David's reign, he had seen the challenges that lay ahead, and he had come to a profound realization. All external success begins with internal preparation. This is exactly what Napoleon Hill discovered when he spent those 20 years studying successful people. Every single one of them had what Hill called a burning desire for a specific, clearly defined goal. But here's what most people miss. Their goal was never just money. Their goal was always something that would require them to grow, to develop their capabilities, to become worthy of the success they sought. Solomon understood this intuitively. He could have asked for gold, silver, armies, or the destruction of his enemies. But he recognized that these external things were merely symptoms of something deeper. Wealth, he realized, is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. When Solomon asked for a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong, he was essentially saying, God, I don't want temporary riches that could disappear tomorrow. I want the ability to make decisions that will create lasting value for generations. This is the first secret that Napoleon Hill extracted from Solomon's wisdom. Before you can have what you want, you must become who you need to be to have it. Think about the entrepreneurs Hill studied. Andrew Carnegie didn't start by asking, how can I make $1 million? He started by asking, how can I provide better steel to build America's infrastructure? Henry Ford didn't begin with, how can I get rich? He began with, how can I make automobiles affordable for every American family? Their wealth was a byproduct of their contribution. Solomon understood this principle thousands of years before Hill codified it. The young king knew that if he could govern wisely, if he could make decisions that benefited his people, the prosperity would naturally follow. And it did. The Bible tells us that God was so pleased with Solomon's request that he not only granted him unprecedented wisdom, but also promised him riches and honor beyond any king before or after him. But notice the order. Wisdom first, then wealth. This is what Hill called the success sequence. First comes the clear definition of purpose, not just any purpose, but one that serves something greater than yourself. Then comes the commitment to develop the knowledge and skills necessary to fulfill that purpose. Finally comes the manifestation of that purpose in the form of material success. Solomon's definite chief aim wasn't to be wealthy, it was to be wise enough to create value for others. Hill discovered that every truly successful person follows this same pattern. They don't start with the question, how can I get rich? They start with, how can I serve? What problem can I solve? What value can I create? But here's where it gets even deeper. Solomon's choice reveals something profound about the nature of the human mind. When you focus on developing your capabilities rather than acquiring possessions, you activate what Hill called the success mindset. Your brain begins to notice opportunities that others miss. You start attracting the right people, the right ideas, the right circumstances. This isn't mystical thinking, it's practical psychology. When your primary focus is on becoming better, wiser, more capable, you naturally make decisions that compound over time. You invest in learning rather than just earning. You build systems rather than just seeking immediate payoffs. You develop relationships rather than just pursuing transactions. Solomon demonstrated this beautifully in how he approached his reign. Instead of immediately focusing on military conquest or accumulating treasure, he invested his early years in understanding justice, studying human nature, and developing the wisdom to see beyond the surface of complex problems. The result? His kingdom became so prosperous that queens from distant lands traveled thousands of miles just to witness his wisdom and wealth. But they didn't come to see his gold. They came to understand how his mind worked. They wanted to learn the principles that had transformed a young, inexperienced king into the wisest and wealthiest ruler on earth. This is the first key to Solomon's secret. Make your primary aim the development of your own capabilities, and let wealth be the natural consequence of the value you create. Focus on becoming worthy of success, and success will find you. Napoleon Hill proved this principle worked in his own time, and it works just as powerfully today. The question isn't whether you have the talent or the connections or the perfect circumstances. The question is whether you're willing to make the same choice Solomon made, to prioritize wisdom over immediate gratification, capability over quick wins, and long-term value creation over short-term profit. The power of disciplined thinking, Solomon's judgment. Now let me tell you about the moment that proved Solomon's wisdom was more than just theoretical knowledge. It was a test that would reveal the practical power of disciplined thinking, and it contains one of the most profound lessons Napoleon Hill ever discovered about the difference between ordinary minds and truly successful ones. Two women came before King Solomon, each claiming to be the mother of the same baby. There were no witnesses, no DNA tests, no evidence beyond their conflicting testimonies. One woman's baby had died in the night, and she claimed the other woman had switched the children while she slept. The other woman vehemently denied this, insisting the living child was hers. Put yourself in Solomon's position. Here you are, a young king being tested by one of the most complex human dilemmas imaginable. The decision you make will not only determine the fate of a child, but will also establish your reputation as a ruler. Make the wrong choice, and your credibility could be destroyed forever. What would most people do in this situation? They might flip a coin, make an arbitrary decision, or simply refuse to judge at all. But Solomon did something that reveals the essence of what Napoleon Hill called accurate thinking. Instead of focusing on the problem, Solomon focused on the solution. Instead of trying to determine who was lying, he created a situation that would reveal the truth. He called for a sword and announced that he would cut the baby in half, giving each woman an equal portion. The reaction was immediate and telling. One woman said, "Yes, cut the baby in half. If I can't have him, neither can she." The other woman cried out, "No, give the baby to her. Let him live." In that instant, Solomon knew who the real mother was. No true mother would rather lose her child than see him harmed. The woman willing to sacrifice her own claim to save the baby's life revealed herself through her love. Now, here's what Napoleon Hill understood about this story that most people miss. Solomon's genius wasn't in the specific solution he chose. His genius was in his approach to problem-solving itself. He demonstrated what Hill called the mastermind principle applied to individual thinking. You see, Solomon didn't just rely on his own knowledge or experience. He tapped into something deeper, what Hill would later identify as the collective intelligence that emerges when the conscious and subconscious minds work together in harmony toward a definite purpose. Think about what actually happened in Solomon's mind during those crucial moments. While the conscious mind was processing the facts and the conflicting testimonies, the subconscious mind was drawing upon deeper wisdom, understanding human nature, maternal instinct, and the principles of justice that transcend specific circumstances. This is exactly what Hill discovered in his study of successful people. They didn't succeed because they were smarter in a traditional sense. They succeeded because they had learned to access and trust the deeper intelligence that emerges when both parts of the mind work together. But there's an even deeper lesson here about the nature of disciplined thinking. Notice that Solomon didn't make his decision based on emotion, even though it was an emotional situation. He didn't make it based on conventional wisdom or what others might have done. He made it based on what Hill called specialized knowledge. In this case, knowledge of human psychology and maternal love. This reveals one of the most important principles of wealth creation that both Solomon and Napoleon Hill understood. Successful people don't make decisions the same way unsuccessful people do. They don't rely on hope, luck, or wishful thinking. They develop the ability to see beyond the surface of situations and identify the underlying principles that govern outcomes. In business terms, this is what separates the entrepreneurs who build lasting enterprises from those who struggle and fail. When faced with a complex business problem, unsuccessful people often make decisions based on what they hope will happen or what seems easiest in the moment. Successful people like Solomon create tests and scenarios that reveal the true nature of the situation. Think about how this applies to modern success. When Andrew Carnegie was deciding whether to invest in a new technology or partner with a particular person, he didn't just rely on surface appearances or promises. He created situations that would reveal the true character and competence of the people he was considering working with. When Henry Ford was developing the assembly line, he didn't just implement the first idea that seemed good. He tested multiple approaches, observed the results, and let the evidence guide his decisions. Like Solomon, he used disciplined thinking to cut through complexity and find solutions that others had missed. This is what Hill meant when he wrote about the importance of accurate thinking. It's not just about being logical or analytical. It's about developing the ability to see situations from multiple angles, to understand human nature deeply enough to predict behavior, and to create conditions that reveal truth rather than just accepting surface appearances. Solomon's judgment teaches us that true wisdom isn't about having all the answers immediately. It's about asking the right questions and creating the right conditions for truth to emerge. It's about understanding that behind every complex problem, there are simple principles that can guide us to effective solutions. But perhaps most importantly, Solomon's approach reveals the power of what Hill called definiteness of purpose applied to decision-making. Solomon wasn't just trying to solve a legal dispute. He was demonstrating the kind of leadership that would establish justice throughout his kingdom. His solution wasn't just about this one case. It was about creating a precedent that would guide thousands of future decisions. This is how successful people think. They don't just solve immediate problems, they create systems and principles that prevent similar problems from recurring. They don't just make money on one deal. They build reputations and relationships that generate opportunities for decades. The secret hidden in Solomon's judgment is this: develop the ability to see beyond the immediate situation to the underlying principles at work, and you'll find that solutions emerge naturally. Focus not just on solving problems, but on understanding why problems exist in the first place, and you'll develop the kind of wisdom that creates lasting success. Wealth as consequence, not goal. Here's where Solomon's story takes a turn that reveals perhaps the most counterintuitive secret of wealth creation ever discovered. After demonstrating his wisdom in the famous judgment, something extraordinary began to happen throughout Solomon's kingdom. News of his wisdom spread like wildfire, and something unexpected occurred. Wealth began flowing toward him from every direction. The Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon's wisdom and traveled over 1,000 miles with a caravan loaded with gold, spices, and precious stones. When she met him, she was so impressed that she gave him gifts worth millions in today's currency. But here's what's remarkable. She didn't come because she heard he was wealthy. She came because she heard he was wise. The wealth followed the wisdom. This reveals what Napoleon Hill called the great paradox of prosperity. The people who chase money directly often struggle to find it, while those who chase wisdom and value creation find that money chases them. Think about what this means in practical terms. Solomon didn't wake up each morning asking, "How can I make more money today?" He woke up asking, "How can I make better decisions? How can I serve my people more effectively? How can I create more value in my kingdom?" And the result? The Bible tells us that silver was as common as stones in Jerusalem during Solomon's reign. His annual income from trade, taxes, and gifts was over 25 tons of gold, equivalent to billions of dollars today. But this wealth wasn't the result of greed or aggressive money-making schemes. It was the natural consequence of wisdom applied to leadership and value creation. Napoleon Hill discovered this same principle when he studied America's most successful entrepreneurs. Andrew Carnegie didn't become wealthy by focusing on money. He became wealthy by focusing on creating better steel and more efficient production methods. The money was simply a measure of the value he created for society. Henry Ford didn't become rich by chasing dollars. He became rich by solving a problem: how to make automobiles affordable for ordinary families. His wealth was a byproduct of the transportation revolution he created. Thomas Edison didn't pursue money directly. He pursued solutions to problems that would improve people's lives. His 1,093 patents generated wealth because each one solved a real problem for real people. This is what Hill called the law of increasing returns. When you focus on creating genuine value, you receive back more than you give. But when you focus only on getting, you often receive less than you expected. Solomon understood this law intuitively. Look at how he built his wealth. He established trade relationships with distant kingdoms, not just to make money, but to bring valuable goods and knowledge to his people. He built the temple not as a personal monument, but as a spiritual center that would unite and inspire the nation. He wrote Proverbs not to sell books, but to pass on wisdom that would benefit future generations. Every action he took was focused on creating value, and wealth flowed to him as a natural result. The merchants who traded with him prospered. The craftsmen who worked on his projects developed new skills. The people who lived under his rule enjoyed unprecedented peace and prosperity. This is what Hill meant when he wrote, "It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed." Solomon's wealth multiplied because he focused on multiplying value for others. But here's the deeper psychological principle that both Solomon and Hill understood. When you make wealth your primary focus, you activate what we might call scarcity consciousness. You begin to see the world as a place where resources are limited, where someone else's gain is your loss, where you have to compete, manipulate, or take advantage of others to get ahead. This mindset actually repels wealth. It makes you focus on short-term gains instead of long-term value creation. It causes you to make decisions based on fear rather than wisdom. It prevents you from building the relationships and reputation that create lasting prosperity. But when you make value creation your primary focus, you activate abundance consciousness. You begin to see opportunities everywhere. You attract people who want to work with you because they know you'll help them succeed too. You make decisions based on principles rather than fear. You build systems that generate wealth, even when you're not actively working. Solomon demonstrated this beautifully in how he approached international relations. Instead of conquering neighboring kingdoms to steal their wealth, he created trade partnerships that benefited everyone involved. Instead of hoarding wisdom, he shared it freely, which made leaders from around the world want to establish relationships with him. The result? His kingdom became the center of international commerce. Wealth flowed to him, not because he demanded it, but because he created conditions where others could prosper by working with him. This principle works just as powerfully today. The wealthiest people in our modern world, people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, didn't become wealthy by chasing money. They became wealthy by focusing obsessively on creating value. Buffett focused on understanding businesses so deeply that he could identify undervalued companies and help them reach their potential. Gates focused on putting a computer on every desk and in every home. Bezos focused on creating the most customer-centric company possible. Their wealth was a natural consequence of the value they created. But here's what most people don't understand. This isn't just a strategy that works for entrepreneurs and business owners. It works for employees, professionals, artists, and anyone who wants to improve their financial situation. When you focus on becoming so good at what you do that you create exceptional value for others, opportunities naturally emerge. Promotions come to you because your value is obvious. Clients seek you out because your reputation precedes you. Investments work out because you've developed the wisdom to recognize good opportunities. Solomon's secret wasn't complicated. Focus on wisdom, serve others, create value, and let wealth be the natural consequence. It worked 3,000 years ago. Napoleon Hill proved it worked in the industrial age, and it works even more powerfully in our information age. The question isn't whether this principle works. The question is whether you're willing to trust it enough to make it your primary approach to building wealth. The law of attraction. As a man thinketh deep in the book of Proverbs, King Solomon wrote words that would echo through the ages and become the foundation of one of Napoleon Hill's most powerful discoveries. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. These 7 words contain what Hill called the secret of the ages, the understanding that your thoughts held consistently over time literally create your reality. But Solomon wasn't speaking metaphorically when he wrote these words. He was describing a law as precise and predictable as the law of gravity. He had observed this principle working in his own life and in the lives of everyone around him. Your dominant thoughts, he realized, don't just influence your actions. They actually attract circumstances that align with those thoughts. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years trying to understand how this principle worked, and what he discovered revolutionized our understanding of success. He found that successful people weren't just positive thinkers. They were people who had learned to program their subconscious minds with clear, specific images of what they wanted to achieve. Think about what happened to Solomon himself. From the moment he chose wisdom over wealth, his subconscious mind began working to align his reality with that choice. He began noticing opportunities to demonstrate wisdom. He attracted situations that challenged him to think more deeply. People who valued wisdom were drawn to him, while those who only cared about surface appearances gradually moved away from his circle. This isn't coincidence. It's the law of attraction operating with mathematical precision. Your subconscious mind, Hill discovered, is like a powerful magnet that attracts people, circumstances, and opportunities that match your dominant thoughts and beliefs. But here's what most people don't understand about this law. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts or visualize what you want. Your conscious thoughts must align with your subconscious beliefs, and both must be backed by definite action. Solomon didn't just think about being wise. He consistently made choices that demonstrated wisdom, even when those choices required personal sacrifice. Let me show you how this worked in Solomon's life. When he asked God for wisdom instead of wealth, he was essentially programming his subconscious mind with a clear image of who he wanted to become. From that moment forward, every decision he made was filtered through this identity. What would a wise ruler do in this situation? This created what Hill called success consciousness. Solomon began to see himself as a wise king, and his subconscious mind worked tirelessly to make that self-image a reality. He was drawn to study justice, to understand human nature, to seek counsel from experienced advisors. He attracted situations that allowed him to demonstrate and develop his wisdom. The wealth that followed wasn't separate from this process. It was part of it. Because Solomon held the image of himself as a wise ruler in his mind consistently, he made decisions that naturally created prosperity. He established just laws that encouraged commerce. He built relationships with other nations that facilitated trade. He invested in infrastructure that supported economic growth. Napoleon Hill saw this same pattern in every successful person he studied. Andrew Carnegie didn't just wish to be successful in the steel industry. He held a clear, detailed vision of himself as America's leading steel producer. He thought about this vision constantly, and his subconscious mind guided him to the people, knowledge, and opportunities that made it a reality. Henry Ford didn't just dream about making automobiles. He held a specific image of millions of American families owning affordable cars. This vision became so real in his mind that it guided every business decision he made. Even when experts told him it was impossible, his subconscious conviction kept him moving toward his goal. But here's the deeper principle that both Solomon and Hill understood. The law of attraction isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts what you want. Solomon attracted wealth not because he visualized gold, but because he became the kind of person who creates conditions for wealth to flourish. This is why Hill emphasized the importance of what he called definiteness of purpose, backed by burning desire. You must know exactly what you want. You must want it with intense emotion, and you must hold this combination of clarity and desire in your mind consistently over time. Solomon demonstrated this perfectly. His purpose was clear: to be the wisest ruler who ever lived. His desire was intense. He wanted this more than wealth, pleasure, or power. And he held this vision consistently. Every day, in every decision, he asked himself how a wise ruler would respond. The subconscious mind responded by guiding him to exactly the experiences he needed. The famous judgment about the baby wasn't just luck. It was his subconscious mind recognizing a perfect opportunity to demonstrate the kind of wisdom he had been programming into his thinking. But here's what makes this principle so practical. You don't need to understand exactly how it works to benefit from it. You just need to apply it consistently. Solomon didn't understand the neurological mechanisms behind subconscious programming, but he understood that thoughts held with conviction tend to manifest in reality. Hill didn't know about neural pathways and confirmation bias, but he observed that people who held clear, emotionally charged visions of their goals consistently attracted the resources necessary to achieve them. Modern neuroscience has confirmed what both men understood intuitively. Your brain is literally rewired by your dominant thoughts. When you consistently focus on a specific goal, your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information, begins noticing opportunities that support that goal. Your subconscious mind begins making connections between seemingly unrelated pieces of information. You start attracting people who can help you achieve your vision. This is why Solomon wrote, Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. He understood that what you allow to dominate your thinking will ultimately dominate your life. Control your thoughts, and you control your destiny. The secret Solomon discovered and Hill rediscovered is this: success isn't something that happens to you, it's something that happens through you. When you align your conscious thoughts, your subconscious beliefs, and your daily actions around a clear vision of what you want to achieve, you become an unstoppable force of attraction that naturally draws success toward you. Your thoughts are not just mental events. They are creative forces that shape your reality. Guard them carefully, direct them purposefully, and watch as your external world begins to mirror the vision you hold in your mind. The Mastermind Principle, Solomon's Counsel of Wisdom. One of the most overlooked aspects of Solomon's success was his understanding of what Napoleon Hill would later call the Mastermind Principle. While many people focus on Solomon's individual brilliance, the deeper truth is that he surrounded himself with the wisest advisors, the most skilled craftsmen, and the most knowledgeable experts of his time. He understood that no single mind, no matter how brilliant, could access all the knowledge and wisdom necessary for extraordinary achievement. The Bible tells us that Solomon had advisors for every aspect of his kingdom: military strategy, economic policy, religious affairs, international relations, construction projects, and judicial matters. But this wasn't just delegation. It was what Hill called the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. Think about the magnitude of Solomon's projects. The temple he built required the coordination of over 180,000 workers, including 80,000 stonecutters, 70,000 carriers, and 30,000 supervisors. The materials came from multiple countries. The designs incorporated architectural knowledge from Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Phoenicia. No single person could have possessed all the expertise necessary to complete such a project. But Solomon did something that revealed his genius. He didn't just hire experts, he created what Hill called a mastermind alliance. He brought together people with complementary skills and knowledge, and he established a spirit of cooperation and shared purpose that multiplied their individual capabilities exponentially. Napoleon Hill discovered this same principle when he studied Andrew Carnegie's success. Carnegie openly admitted that he himself knew very little about the technical aspects of steel production, but he had assembled around him the greatest metallurgical minds of his time. He created an environment where these experts could collaborate, share knowledge, and build upon each other's ideas. The result? Carnegie's company developed innovations that revolutionized the steel industry and made him one of the wealthiest men in American history. But here's the key. Carnegie's wealth wasn't built on his individual knowledge. It was built on his ability to coordinate the knowledge of others. This reveals one of the most profound secrets of wealth creation that both Solomon and Hill understood. Your income is directly related to the collective intelligence you can access and coordinate. The more brilliant minds you can bring together in pursuit of a common goal, the more value you can create and the more wealth will naturally flow to you. But there's something even deeper happening here. Hill discovered that when two or more minds come together in harmony around a shared purpose, something he called the third mind emerges. This collective intelligence is actually greater than the sum of its parts. New ideas emerge that no individual member of the group could have conceived alone. Solomon experienced this phenomenon repeatedly. When he was designing the temple, the collaboration between Hebrew religious leaders, Phoenician architects, and Egyptian craftsmen produced innovations that none of them could have achieved individually. When he was developing trade relationships, the combination of his wisdom with the expertise of international merchants created opportunities that benefited everyone involved. This is why Hill wrote, "No individual may have great power without availing himself of the mastermind." He wasn't just talking about networking or hiring good employees. He was describing a specific type of alliance where each member contributes their unique knowledge and skills while remaining committed to the success of the group's shared objective. Think about how this applies in our modern world. The most successful companies are never built by individual geniuses working alone. They're built by teams of complementary experts working together toward a common vision. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple by himself. He created a mastermind alliance with Steve Wozniak's technical genius and later expanded it to include the best designers, engineers, and marketers in the industry. Bill Gates didn't create Microsoft alone. He partnered with Paul Allen's programming brilliance and later built a mastermind alliance that included some of the brightest minds in software development. Warren Buffett doesn't make investment decisions in isolation. He's created a mastermind alliance with Charlie Munger and other brilliant investors who challenge his thinking and contribute different perspectives. But here's what most people miss about the mastermind principle. It's not just about business partnerships or formal alliances. You can apply this principle at any level of success. If you're an employee, you can create an informal mastermind with colleagues who share your ambition for advancement. If you're starting a business, you can form a mastermind with other entrepreneurs who can share knowledge and provide accountability. Solomon understood this at every level of his life. He had formal advisors for major decisions, but he also sought wisdom from unexpected sources. The Bible tells us that people came from all nations to hear his wisdom, but it also shows us that he learned from these visitors. He created a flow of knowledge that enriched not just his own understanding, but the collective intelligence of his entire kingdom. This reveals another crucial aspect of the mastermind principle that Hill emphasized. True mastermind alliances are based on mutual benefit, not exploitation. Solomon didn't just take advice from his counselors, he shared his own insights generously. He created an environment where knowledge flowed in all directions, where each member of his advisory network felt valued and supported. The Queen of Sheba's visit illustrates this beautifully. She came to test Solomon's wisdom, but the Bible tells us that Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. But the exchange wasn't one-sided. She shared knowledge of her own kingdom's trade routes, cultural practices, and innovations. Both rulers benefited from the mastermind principle. Hill observed this same pattern in every successful person he studied. They were all generous with their knowledge and quick to acknowledge the contributions of others. They understood that the more value they created for their mastermind partners, the more value would flow back to them. The secret hidden in Solomon's use of the mastermind principle is this: your success is limited only by the collective intelligence you can access and coordinate. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you in their areas of expertise. Create alliances based on mutual benefit and shared purpose. Foster an environment where knowledge flows freely and new ideas emerge naturally. But remember Solomon's example. Don't just seek to benefit from others' knowledge. Contribute your own unique insights and skills. The most powerful mastermind alliances are those where each member both gives and receives, where the collective intelligence grows through the contributions of all participants. This is how ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. This is how Solomon built a kingdom that lasted for centuries. This is how Napoleon Hill students created fortunes that seemed impossible for individuals working alone. The mastermind principle isn't just a business strategy, it's a fundamental law of achievement that can transform any area of your life. Persistence and discipline, the daily habits of wisdom. If you've ever wondered what separated Solomon from other kings of his time, the answer isn't found in a single moment of divine inspiration or a lucky break. It's found in the daily habits and persistent disciplines that he maintained throughout his 40-year reign. Solomon understood what Napoleon Hill would later call the compound effect of persistence, the idea that small, consistent actions, repeated over time, create extraordinary results. The book of Proverbs gives us glimpses into Solomon's daily discipline of wisdom. He wrote, "I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is grasping for the wind." But notice what he didn't do. He didn't give up. Instead, he continued his pursuit of understanding, writing over 3,000 proverbs and composing 1,005 songs. This wasn't the work of sporadic inspiration. This was the result of persistent daily effort to understand life's deepest principles. Napoleon Hill discovered this same quality in every successful person he studied. They weren't necessarily more talented or more intelligent than their contemporaries, but they all shared one crucial characteristic. They had developed the habit of persistent action toward their definite chief aim, regardless of temporary setbacks or obstacles. Think about what this meant in Solomon's daily life. Every morning he had to make countless decisions that would affect thousands of people. Instead of making these decisions impulsively or based on emotion, he had developed the discipline to pause, consider the principles of wisdom, and choose the course of action that aligned with his higher purpose. This is what Hill called self-discipline, the ability to control your thoughts, emotions, and actions in service of your long-term goals, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Solomon demonstrated this discipline, not just in major decisions, but in the seemingly small choices that ultimately determined the character of his reign. Consider how Solomon approached learning. He didn't just rely on his natural intelligence or divine gift of wisdom. The Bible tells us that he spoke of trees, from the cedar tree of Lebanon even to the hyssop that springs out of the wall. He spoke also of animals, of birds, of creeping things, and of fish. This wasn't casual observation. This was systematic study of the natural world to understand the principles that governed life itself. Hill discovered this same dedication to continuous learning in every successful person he interviewed. Thomas Edison read voraciously and conducted thousands of experiments, failing repeatedly until he found solutions that worked. Henry Ford studied every aspect of manufacturing and production, constantly seeking ways to improve efficiency. Andrew Carnegie immersed himself in understanding every facet of the steel industry, from raw materials to market dynamics. But here's what makes Solomon's approach so powerful. He didn't just accumulate information, he synthesized it into wisdom. Each observation, each experience, each conversation became part of a larger understanding of how success principles worked in real life. This is what Hill called specialized knowledge, not just knowing facts, but understanding how to apply knowledge to create value. Solomon's daily discipline extended beyond learning to include what we might call wisdom practice. Every day, he dealt with disputes, made policy decisions, and guided his kingdom's development. But he approached each situation as an opportunity to apply and refine his understanding of wisdom principles. This is exactly what Hill meant when he wrote about the importance of definiteness of purpose combined with persistent action. Solomon had a clear vision of the kind of ruler he wanted to be, and he took consistent daily action to become that person, regardless of the challenges he faced. Think about the famous judgment of the two mothers claiming the same baby. This wasn't just a brilliant solution that came to Solomon in a moment of inspiration. It was the result of years of persistent study of human nature, consistent practice in making difficult decisions, and disciplined thinking about the principles of justice. The solution emerged from the foundation of wisdom he had built through daily discipline. This reveals one of the most important secrets of wealth creation that both Solomon and Hill understood. Success isn't created by occasional bursts of intense effort. It's created by consistent, disciplined action, maintained over long periods of time. The people who achieve extraordinary results are those who do the ordinary things that success requires every single day, even when they don't feel like it. Solomon demonstrated this in how he built his kingdom's prosperity. He didn't create wealth through get-rich-quick schemes or brilliant one-time deals. He established systems of justice that encouraged commerce, built infrastructure that facilitated trade, and maintained diplomatic relationships that opened new markets. Each of these required daily attention and persistent effort over many years. The same principle applies to every area of wealth creation. Warren Buffett didn't become wealthy through spectacular investment coups. He became wealthy by consistently applying his investment principles day after day, year after year, for over 6 decades. His success is the compound result of persistent discipline, not occasional brilliance. Bill Gates didn't build Microsoft through a single stroke of genius. He spent countless hours programming, studying the computer industry, and building relationships with key players in the emerging personal computer market. His wealth was built through years of persistent, disciplined effort toward a clear vision. But here's where most people fail to apply this principle. They underestimate the power of consistency and overestimate the importance of intensity. They look for dramatic breakthroughs and revolutionary strategies, when what they really need is the discipline to do the basic things that success requires every single day. Solomon understood that wisdom isn't developed through occasional moments of deep thinking. It's developed through the daily habit of reflecting on your experiences, learning from your mistakes, and continuously seeking to understand the principles that govern success and failure. Hill called this the habit of going the extra mile, not just doing what's required, but consistently doing more than what's expected. Solomon didn't just fulfill his basic duties as king. He studied natural science, wrote poetry, engaged with international visitors, and continuously expanded his understanding of the world. This is why Solomon wrote, "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before mean men." He understood that persistent diligence, more than talent or luck, determines who rises to the top in any field. The secret hidden in Solomon's discipline is this: daily habits, consistently maintained, have more impact on your ultimate success than occasional efforts, no matter how intense. Develop the discipline to do the things that success requires every single day, and the compound effect will eventually make you unstoppable. But remember, this isn't about working harder. It's about working consistently on the right things. Solomon didn't just work hard. He worked persistently on developing wisdom, creating value, and building systems that would benefit his kingdom for generations. That's the kind of persistence that creates lasting wealth and success. The 7 secrets revealed, Solomon through Hill's lens. Now we come to the heart of the matter, the 7 fundamental secrets that Solomon discovered and Napoleon Hill decoded. These aren't just philosophical concepts or feel-good principles. These are the actual laws that govern wealth creation, laws that have operated with mathematical precision for 3,000 years and continue to work today with the same power they had in Solomon's time. The first secret, wisdom before wealth. Solomon's choice to seek wisdom instead of immediate riches wasn't just spiritual nobility, it was the most practical decision he could have made. Hill discovered that every truly wealthy person follows this same sequence. They develop their capabilities first, then apply those capabilities to create value, and finally receive wealth as a natural consequence. Think about what this means in practical terms. When you focus on developing your knowledge, skills, and judgment, you become capable of recognizing opportunities that others miss. You make better decisions with money. You build relationships with other successful people. You create value that generates income for years or decades. But when you focus primarily on making money, you often make short-sighted decisions that undermine long-term wealth building. You might take a higher-paying job that doesn't develop your skills. You might invest in get-rich-quick schemes that seem appealing but lack substance. You might damage relationships by being too focused on immediate profit. Solomon's kingdom became wealthy because he had developed the wisdom to make decisions that created lasting value. Hill's students became wealthy because they had developed the knowledge and skills necessary to serve others effectively. The sequence is always the same: capabilities first, then wealth. The second secret, decisions reveal character. The judgment of the 2 mothers wasn't just a clever solution to a difficult problem, it was a demonstration of how wise people make decisions differently than unwise people. Solomon didn't rely on guesswork or arbitrary choice. He created a test that would reveal the truth. Hill discovered that successful people have developed what he called accurate thinking, the ability to distinguish between facts and opinions, to see situations from multiple perspectives, and to make decisions based on evidence rather than emotion or wishful thinking. This is why successful people often succeed in multiple fields. They've developed decision-making processes that work regardless of the specific situation. They know how to gather reliable information, analyze alternatives, and choose the course of action most likely to produce the desired results. The third secret, purpose creates magnetism. When Solomon chose to seek wisdom for governing his people rather than personal gain, he activated what Hill called the law of attraction. People, opportunities, and resources began flowing toward him because his purpose was larger than himself. This isn't mystical thinking, it's practical psychology. When your primary purpose involves serving others or solving important problems, you naturally attract people who share those values. You notice opportunities that align with your purpose. You make decisions that create value for others, which generates value for yourself. Hill observed that every great fortune was built by someone whose primary purpose was creating value for others. The money followed the value, not the other way around. Solomon's kingdom attracted wealth from around the world because it had become a center of wisdom, justice, and prosperity for everyone involved. The fourth secret: faith activates potential. Solomon's unwavering conviction that wisdom would lead to success wasn't just optimism. It was what Hill called applied faith. He acted consistently as if his vision of wise leadership would become reality, even when circumstances were challenging. This kind of faith isn't passive hoping, it's active expectation backed by persistent action. When you truly believe that your efforts will succeed, you persist through obstacles that stop others. You take calculated risks that others avoid. You invest time and energy in developing capabilities that others consider unnecessary. Hill discovered that faith, in this practical sense, is actually a form of specialized knowledge. Successful people have learned through experience that persistence toward a worthy goal eventually produces results. This knowledge gives them the confidence to continue when others give up. The fifth secret: collective intelligence multiplies power. Solomon's use of advisors and experts wasn't just good management, it was application of what Hill called the mastermind principle. He understood that his individual intelligence, no matter how great, was limited compared to the collective intelligence he could access through strategic alliances. This principle works at every level of success. Whether you're building a business empire or advancing in your career, your success is directly related to the quality and quantity of minds you can coordinate around your objectives. Solomon built advisors into every aspect of his kingdom. Hill's students built mastermind alliances that supported their goals. The key is creating relationships based on mutual benefit, where each person contributes their unique knowledge and skills while remaining committed to the success of the group's shared objective. This creates synergy, results that are greater than the sum of individual efforts. The sixth secret: persistence compounds results. Solomon's daily discipline of seeking wisdom and applying it to governing wasn't just good habits, it was what Hill called the compound effect of persistence. Small, consistent actions, repeated over time, create extraordinary results that seem miraculous to outside observers. Most people underestimate the power of consistency and overestimate the importance of intensity. They look for dramatic breakthroughs, when what they need is the discipline to do the ordinary things that success requires, every single day, regardless of how they feel. Solomon wrote 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs, not through occasional bursts of inspiration, but through persistent, daily effort to understand and communicate wisdom. Hill's students built fortunes not through lucky breaks, but through consistent application of success principles over many years. The seventh secret: service generates abundance. Perhaps most importantly, Solomon understood that true wealth comes from serving something greater than yourself. His wisdom benefited his entire kingdom and influenced leaders around the world. Hill discovered that every great fortune was built by someone who found a way to serve others more effectively. This isn't about charity or self-sacrifice. It's about understanding that the most reliable way to create wealth is to create value for others. When you solve problems, meet needs, or improve lives, wealth flows to you as a natural consequence of the value you've created. Solomon's kingdom became a center of international trade because he had created conditions where everyone could prosper. Hill's students became wealthy because they had found ways to serve their customers, employees, and communities more effectively than their competitors. These 7 secrets work together as a complete system. Wisdom guides your decisions. Good decisions reveal and build character. Character aligned with purpose creates magnetism. Faith provides the persistence to overcome obstacles. Mastermind alliances multiply your capabilities. Persistence compounds your results. Service ensures that your success benefits others and therefore becomes sustainable and meaningful. This is Solomon's secret, decoded by Napoleon Hill and proven by countless successful people throughout history. These aren't just ancient principles or outdated philosophies. These are the actual laws that govern wealth creation in any era, under any circumstances, for anyone willing to apply them consistently. Practical application for the modern seeker. Now comes the most crucial question: How do you take these timeless principles that Solomon discovered and Napoleon Hill codified and apply them to your life today? How do you bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern reality? How do you transform these insights from intellectual understanding to practical results? Let me give you a specific, actionable roadmap that you can begin implementing immediately. These aren't theoretical exercises. They're the exact practices that have worked for thousands of Hill students and continue to work for successful people today. Exercise 1. Define your wisdom-seeking purpose. Just as Solomon asked for wisdom to govern his people effectively, you need to identify the specific area where developing wisdom will create the most value in your life. This isn't about vague self-improvement. It's about targeting the exact knowledge and capabilities that will allow you to serve others more effectively. Take out a piece of paper right now and complete this statement. I want to develop wisdom in ACE so that I can, Meyer. For example, I want to develop wisdom in financial planning so that I can help families achieve financial security. Or I want to develop wisdom in leadership so that I can help my team accomplish extraordinary results. Notice that both parts of this statement are crucial. The first part identifies what you need to learn. The second part identifies how that learning will create value for others. This combination activates the same principle that made Solomon wealthy. Wisdom pursued for the purpose of serving others naturally attracts the resources necessary for success. Exercise 2. Create your daily wisdom practice. Solomon didn't become wise through occasional study sessions or weekend seminars. He developed the daily discipline of seeking understanding in every situation. You need to establish a similar practice that fits your lifestyle and goals. Commit to spending at least 30 minutes every day developing the specific wisdom you identified in Exercise 1. This might involve reading books by experts in your field, studying successful people who've achieved what you want to accomplish, or practicing the skills that your purpose requires. But here's the key. Don't just consume information passively. Follow Solomon's example by actively seeking to understand the principles behind what you're learning. Ask yourself, what are the underlying laws that make this work? How can I apply this principle to other situations? What would happen if I consistently applied this knowledge? Exercise 3. Practice the Solomon decision method. Remember how Solomon solved the problem of the two mothers claiming the same baby? He didn't just guess or rely on intuition. He created a test that would reveal the truth. You can apply this same approach to every important decision in your life. The next time you face a significant choice, instead of making an immediate decision based on your first instinct, ask yourself, what test could I create that would reveal the best course of action? This might involve trying a small version of what you're considering, seeking advice from people who've faced similar decisions, or analyzing the potential long-term consequences of each option. This approach transforms decision-making from guesswork into a skill that improves with practice. The more you use this method, the better you become at recognizing the underlying principles that govern successful outcomes. Exercise 4. Build your personal mastermind alliance. Solomon surrounded himself with the wisest advisors he could find. You need to do the same thing adapted to your current situation and goals. This doesn't require formal partnerships or complex agreements. It just requires intentional relationship building with people who share your commitment to growth and success. Identify 5 people whose knowledge, experience, or perspective could help you achieve your wisdom-seeking purpose. These might be colleagues in your field, mentors who've achieved what you want to accomplish, or peers who are pursuing similar goals. Reach out to each of them and propose a mutually beneficial relationship where you can share knowledge, provide accountability, and support each other's success. The key is ensuring that these relationships are genuinely mutual. Look for ways to contribute value to each person's goals, not just extract value for your own purposes. Remember Solomon's example. He shared his wisdom generously with everyone who sought it, which made people eager to share their knowledge with him. Exercise 5. Implement the compound persistence method. Solomon wrote 3,000 proverbs through consistent daily effort, not occasional bursts of inspiration. You need to identify the specific daily actions that will compound over time to create the results you want. Choose one small action related to your wisdom-seeking purpose that you can commit to performing every single day for the next 90 days. This might be writing one page of insights from your daily study, making one phone call to build your professional network, or practicing one skill that your purpose requires. The action should be small enough that you can maintain it even on your busiest days, but significant enough that performing it consistently will create meaningful progress toward your goals. Remember, you're not trying to achieve dramatic results immediately. You're building the foundation for compound growth that will accelerate over time. Exercise 6. Establish your value creation metric. Solomon's wealth flowed to him because he consistently created value for others. You need a way to measure and track how effectively you're creating value in pursuit of your purpose. Define a specific metric that indicates how well you're serving others through the wisdom you're developing. This might be the number of people you help solve problems, the amount of improvement you generate in your workplace, or the positive feedback you receive from people who benefit from your knowledge. Track this metric weekly and look for ways to improve it consistently. Remember, this isn't about self-promotion or taking credit for everything good that happens. It's about ensuring that your pursuit of wisdom translates into genuine benefit for others, which activates the principle that made Solomon wealthy. Exercise 7. Practice applied faith. Solomon acted consistently as if his pursuit of wisdom would lead to success, even before he saw evidence of results. You need to develop the same unwavering conviction about your own wisdom-seeking purpose. Every day, make at least one decision based on the assumption that your purpose will succeed. This might involve investing time in learning something that won't pay off for months, building a relationship that might not benefit you immediately, or taking a calculated risk that aligns with your long-term vision. This isn't about blind optimism or reckless behavior. It's about acting consistently with your stated purpose, even when circumstances make it tempting to abandon your long-term goals for short-term convenience. These 7 exercises work together as a complete system for applying Solomon's secrets to your modern life. They're not one-time activities, they're ongoing practices that will transform your relationship with wealth, success, and your own potential. The key is starting immediately and maintaining consistency. Solomon didn't wait until he felt ready to seek wisdom. He began the day he became king. Hill didn't wait until he had all the answers before he started interviewing successful people. He began with Andrew Carnegie and learned as he went. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to apply these principles, not the moment you feel completely prepared to apply them perfectly. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and trust the process to compound your results over time. As we reach the end of this journey through 3 millennia of wealth creation wisdom, I want you to pause and consider the profound truth we've uncovered together. What Solomon discovered in that ancient chamber, and what Napoleon Hill rediscovered through 20 years of studying America's most successful people, isn't just historical curiosity or philosophical speculation. This is the actual blueprint that has created every great fortune in human history. This is the secret that transformed a young, uncertain king into the wealthiest ruler who ever lived. This is the master key that unlocked prosperity for countless people across cultures, centuries, and circumstances. But here's what makes this secret so powerful and so dangerous. It works whether you believe in it or not. It operates like gravity or any other natural law, consistently, predictably, without exception. The only question is whether you'll align yourself with these principles or struggle against them. Think about what you've learned today. Solomon chose wisdom over immediate wealth, and wealth pursued him for the rest of his life. He focused on serving his people, and people served him in return. He sought to understand the principles that govern success, and those principles made him more successful than any ruler before or since. Napoleon Hill discovered that these same patterns appeared in every truly wealthy person he studied. They didn't chase money directly. They chased the knowledge, skills, and character that naturally attract money. They didn't focus primarily on getting. They focused on giving, creating, and serving. They didn't rely on luck or manipulation. They aligned themselves with the laws that govern prosperity. This is why Solomon wrote, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." He wasn't just talking about religious faith, he was describing the practical benefit of aligning yourself with principles that are greater and more reliable than your own limited perspective. Hill expressed the same truth in secular terms when he wrote about infinite intelligence, the idea that there are laws governing success that transcend individual knowledge or capability. When you align yourself with these laws, you tap into a power source that makes extraordinary achievement not just possible but inevitable. But let me be absolutely clear about what this means for your life today. This isn't about waiting for divine intervention or hoping that success will somehow find you. This is about taking deliberate, consistent action based on principles that have proven their effectiveness across thousands of years. The choice Solomon made in that ancient dream is the same choice you face today. Will you pursue wisdom, understanding, and the ability to create value for others? Or will you continue chasing immediate gratification, quick fixes, and shortcuts that lead nowhere? Will you develop the daily disciplines that compound into extraordinary results? Or will you keep looking for dramatic breakthroughs that require no sustained effort? Will you build relationships based on mutual benefit and shared purpose? Or will you try to succeed in isolation, relying only on your own limited resources? Will you align your goals with serving something greater than yourself? Or will you remain focused on what you can get, rather than what you can give? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're practical decisions that will determine the trajectory of your financial future. Every day in hundreds of small choices, you're either moving closer to Solomon's approach to wealth creation or further away from it. The beauty of these principles is that they work at any level. You don't need to be building kingdoms or managing vast enterprises to benefit from Solomon's secrets. Whether you're starting your first business, advancing in your career, or simply trying to improve your family's financial situation, these same laws apply with equal force. Start where you are. Use what you have. Begin today to seek wisdom instead of just seeking wealth. Focus on creating value instead of just capturing profit. Build your knowledge and skills instead of just chasing opportunities. Develop relationships based on mutual benefit instead of just networking for personal gain. And remember this: Solomon's greatest wealth wasn't measured in gold or silver. His greatest wealth was the wisdom that enabled him to create prosperity for generations. When you focus on developing the same kind of wisdom, the ability to make decisions that create lasting value, you position yourself to build wealth that extends far beyond your own lifetime. Before I close, I want to make sure you don't make the mistake that so many people make when they encounter life-changing information. Don't let this become just another interesting video that you watch and forget. Don't let these principles become theoretical knowledge that you admire but never apply. If this information has resonated with you, if you recognize the truth in what Solomon discovered and Hill rediscovered, then I challenge you to take action immediately. Subscribe to this channel because we're going to continue exploring these principles in greater depth. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, but most importantly, choose one principle we've discussed today and begin applying it in your life this week. Remember, Solomon didn't become wealthy because he was lucky or specially chosen. He became wealthy because he made choices that aligned with the laws governing prosperity. Hill didn't uncover these secrets through accident or chance. He discovered them through persistent study of people who had already proven their effectiveness. You have access to the same principles, the same laws, the same opportunities to create extraordinary results. The only question is whether you'll choose to apply them with the same consistency and dedication that made Solomon the wisest and wealthiest king in history. The secret isn't hidden anymore. The choice is yours. Your journey toward wisdom-based wealth creation begins the moment you decide to prioritize becoming worthy of success over simply pursuing success. It begins when you choose to develop your capabilities instead of just chasing opportunities. It begins when you commit to creating value for others instead of just trying to capture value for yourself. 3,000 years ago, a young king made a choice that changed the world. 2,500 years later, a determined reporter rediscovered the principles behind that choice and proved they still work. Today, you have the opportunity to make the same choice and experience the same results. The secret of Solomon, according to Napoleon Hill, isn't just ancient wisdom. It's your roadmap to modern wealth. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you'll work them. Choose wisdom, create value, build relationships, persist consistently, serve others genuinely, and watch as wealth in all its forms begins to flow toward you as naturally as rivers flow toward the sea. This is Solomon's secret. This is Hill's discovery. This is your opportunity. The choice, as always, is yours.